All right. Well, next up needs no introduction if you have not been to any of his 4, 5, 6, 7 talks. We have another one for you. It's Alan Schreiber with the Agricultural Development Group, and he'll be talking about gray mold in raspberries. And don't forget to wish your partner happy Soils Day.
So I'm guessing you guys are mainly here for the pesticide credits, but I will tell you that a lot of the content here is basically the same slides that I used yesterday when I talked about disease management in blueberries. Um, so I'm going to, as far as I can tell, is the biggest disease challenge that raspberry growers are going to have in the next 10 years is resistance in gray mold. This is a picture from, this is a slide of some data from 2022. This is a field in Whatcom County. And over here, this is the area on the disease progress curve. And this is a field treated with pristine that is about the same amount of disease as in the untreated check. So this is a field where they have lost the ability to control uh, gray mold because of resistance to boscalid. So when Chalks was talking yesterday, and Jeff DeLong has some data for raspberries, um, they have found for blueberries and for raspberries the fact that there's some widespread development of a resistance. And we haven't seen the control failures in the field for the resistance mechanisms and mutations that have occurred because the disease pressure hasn't been that high. I will just tell you, we did a trial in a field that in that field with these kind of results, if we would have had a disease pressure and they would have relied just on pristine, they would have had some control failures. Um, these are what I consider to be the effective options for botrytis control, gray mold control in blueberries. Here's the brand name, here are the common names, here are the frac groups, the registrants, and just some comments that I have about them. I want to spend a moment talking about frac groups, Fungicide Resistance Action Committee. Um, that's a group of plant pathologists and industry reps that assign a number. It's the mode of action. If you see something that says a 7, then anything with a 7 all acts on the same site uh, on a on gray mold. Now, if you see a 7-11, that means boscalid is group 7, pyractostrobin is a group 11, and so they're what you call package mixes. There are some differences within the group 7s. They're not all identical, but they are similar, and what's most important is they have the same mode of action, and presumably if you develop resistance to one frac group 7, the likelihood is high that there will be cross resistance to other members in that frac group. In 2013, there was widespread control failures. And in 2014, 2015, there was a bunch of sampling done. This is Washington State University did the work, Tobin Peaver in his lab. This is Elevate, this is Pristine, and this is in Switch. And just about every field, there was widespread resistance to these three products, Elevate, Pristine, and Switch. You see a couple fields that didn't have anything. If I recollect correctly, these fields were some organic fields. They sampled in other crops. They sampled in other locations, basically in British Columbia, in Washington, in Oregon, in strawberries, in blackberries, in blueberries, in raspberries. They found resistance. It was not restricted to a particular crop or a particular region because they were using these three products everywhere, and resistance had developed in all of the locations. I have a comment about add-in iprodione. That's Rovrol or Meteor. Subsequent to this study, they did sampling and found resistance to that, to iprodione as well. This is a great talk. I have great slides, mostly because I swiped them from other people. This is a new slide. This is from WSU's Dr. Machapali. He did a study looking at these 10 active ingredients, these different frac codes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He used discriminating dose, and he has been sampling for a few years. And okay, so 22 fields, 313 isolates. And by the way, this is blueberries, but let me assure you, Jeff DeLong has actually more data, more samples, I believe, than Machapali has that shows something similar. And there's widespread resistance. Again, this is switch, this is elevate, abound, this is in pristine, this is pristine, this is Luna, this is Kinja, this is Zemian, this is in switch, this is in Mirabos Prime. And what's interesting is this product here, group 7, not registered, not been used, widespread resistance. So how can you have resistance if it's never been used? Because it's cross resistance. They develop resistance to boscalid, and if you develop resistance to boscalid, it can confer cross resistance to this product because it works. The mutation works at this product works at the same site as boscalid. This is an absolutely no good, horrible slide. So I put in here, I said, this is a potential for Armageddon. This has horrific implications for the raspberry industry and the blueberry industry. And whatever I said yesterday about blueberries, it's worse for raspberries. Raspberries is more susceptible to botrytis than blueberries, and that you have fewer active ingredients. So you got less flexibility for rotation. What this slide is, and Jeff, you're in here, right? Where are you, Jeff? Right back here. So I'm going to look at you while I'm talking. I'm talking about blueberries, but correct me if I'm wrong when I get done with this. But my question will be to you is this true for raspberries, or is it worse than what I'm saying? In blueberries, 75% of the samples they have tested, 25% were susceptible to 5 classes of fungicides. 13% were resistant to 1 class of fungicides. 12% were resistant to 2 classes of fungicides. 15% were resistant to 3 classes. 24% were resistant to 4 classes. And 11% were resistant to all 5 fungicide classes you could use for botrytis. So Jeff, is what I said for blueberries true for raspberries, or is it worse? So similar results for raspberries as I just talked about for blueberries. So here's 14 active ingredients can be used for botrytis. I've tested every one of these products a lot. I know these products like the back of my hand. Every one of them is effective to highly effective against susceptible botrytis. The ones in blue are the ones that they have commonly found resistance in the fields in Northwest Washington. Commonly found resistance to the ones in blue. Now, I said resistance. I should say, they're probably wincing. What I should say is reduce susceptibility, but trust me, the difference between reduced susceptibility in a lab and having a control failure in the field is a very short distance. It's a matter of time, selection pressure, and having conditions conducive for botrytis. I believe, and I believe Jeff and Chalks agree with me on this, the reason we have not had control failures to these new fungicides is because the disease pressure has not been that severe in the last few years. It's been warmer and drier. The first year that it is not, the first year it's conducive, we have a good botrytis gray mold year, it could be an unpleasant situation. Now, you'll notice I have up the products that are in blue are the products that they have not found resistance. These products, Captan and polyoxin D, have a multi-site mode of action, which means they act on different places. They have different places in the fungi that they attack, and as a result, to develop resistance against them, the disease would have to simultaneously mutate in all of those places to develop resistance. And as a result, both Captan and polyoxin D have not developed resistance to botrytis anywhere in the world after decades of use. So these are ones that will be very difficult to develop resistance to and are products that we should be using. Now, watch this slide carefully. I changed the color instead of being blue and went to white. These are the products that have low efficacy against susceptible botrytis. They're not particularly effective. So the products that we need to incorporate into our program are not very effective. But I'll tell you, if you develop resistance botrytis, they're going to start looking better. So and the other thing I want to point out is Captan has some MRL challenges going into Canada. So really what you should be doing is you should be tank mixing Captan and PhD into your programs. This is some residue study. This is some work that I did in blueberries. It shows one of the points here is Captan residues don't degrade over time. There's some pretty high MRLs for that, except for Canada. Canada's at 5, and 5 is here. I'll just point out that this is work that's done in California, Oregon, Eastern Washington, and Michigan, and in Washington. I just want to point out of all those places over multiple years, this is Whatcom County. For whatever the reason, I mean, I could tell you what I think the reason is, but Captan residues tend to be higher here than in other locations. If you are going to be going into Canada, Captan is not something you should be using during harvest if at 2 pounds if you want to ship to Canada. So if you want to manage botrytis resistance in raspberries, not if you want to, you have to. If you use Switch Elevate Pristine and or Iprodione, you've got resistance in your field. You do. You have they've mutated, you've got it. And everybody that's a conventional grower has used those 4 products for multiple years. If you use Pristine, and everybody in this county has, your fields are likely to have a strain that has cross resistance to all the frat group 7 fungicides. You only want to use Roverall or Meteor once a season. In the 90s and early 2000s, botrytis developed resistance to iprodione. That resistance has something called a fitness cost. It is less competitive than susceptible botrytis, and in the absence of selection pressure or the use of iprodione, its abundance in the population will be reduced and it will be taken over by susceptible blueberries. But the gene for resistance never goes away. It's always out there in the population. And when you have selection pressure, if you use iprodione a lot, it will come back. We've figured out that you can use it once out of 6 times, once a year, and it's okay. In Whatcom County, probably do not want to use Elevate. The presence of that resistance to that product is very widespread. If you're using Pristine, you got a big problem. Switch is a good product because it has 2 modes of action. There's a product that's registered on blueberries called Miravos Prime. It has 2 modes of action. That would be a good choice, except Miravos Prime is registered on blueberries, not on raspberries. Use Captan at the high rate, include PhD in your program. Don't use any fungicide by itself more than twice in a row, except for Captan PhD. If possible, get your fields tested to determine what kind of disease resistance that you're dealing with. I can't make promises for Jeff DeLong at USDA, but he's the guy that can do that. Let's see. Okay, tank mix, rotate. Don't apply frat group 7 more than twice in a season. Don't use different frat groups consecutively. Include switch. Anyway, that's some of these products have other charms. Miravos works on cane blight, Vellum Prime for root lesion, Fontell's for yellow rust. Using it for these other diseases counts against your uses for botrytis. All right, there's a lot of different kind of programs you can use, but I'm out of time. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Alan. We have time for one question while the Molly is switching presentations. There we go.
Thanks. Alan, some of the newer WSU varieties and maybe some of the other varieties as well really need cane botrytis management because it can really wreak havoc with their yields. So I recognize that that's kind of has traditionally relied on some of the same group 7 products.
Tom, I can't hear you. Put it a little closer to your mouth.
So some of the WSU varieties and some of the other varieties, I think, also really need cane botrytis management. They can have real problems with the cane botrytis. And I'm wondering if you've got any thoughts on products to manage cane botrytis. Can we get any use out of things like lime sulfur for cane botrytis management?
I mean,
other than in the fruit
lime sulfur early would be a great product. Early. To be honest, I haven't really thought about it. Okay, any of these products would work, but it'd really be nice if you could use something other than these products and you save them for when you really need it. So I think lime sulfur, as unpleasant as it is something that probably has charms that we're not enjoying. Thanks, Tom.
All right.